The introduction of 5G networks is likely going to be one of the largest improvements in technology since the advent of the internet. Now, when it comes to 5G, most people are split up between one of two groups. The first group recognizes 5G for the opportunities it's going to bring to businesses and individuals in terms of a connected community, while the other group fears the potential health and privacy risks that are associated with 5G networks. Now, regardless of which group you are in, as an investor, you have to understand the potential of 5G networks and how it's going to transform business so that your investments can benefit from the 5G movement. That's why in this video, I'm going to be going over why 5G is a game changer, and I'm going to be giving you all 3 companies that are going to be seeing extraordinary growth from the introduction of 5G networks. How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to my channel where I give you guys simplified rational investment analysis so that you can make an informed investment decision. If you enjoyed this video, press the like and subscribe button to help me out with the YouTube algorithm, and in turn I'm going to continue bringing you guys great analysis on a weekly basis. So with that, let's get right into it. Internet connection in its infancy was achieved through a dial-up connection, and you might have been used to seeing things like this where you actually had to dial up the internet because you got your internet connection through your telephone line, and at this time you weren't even able to use your telephone and internet at the same time. Since then, we've made a lot of improvements, and the next technology that followed up dial-up was broadband. Now, broadband is actually still the most commonly used internet connection for households today, and there's 4 common types of broadband. The first is DSL, which is still through your telephone line. The second is through your cable provider. The third is fiber optic, which is the fastest type of broadband internet today. And the fourth is satellite, which is mostly just reserved for people who live in rural areas and aren't able to access the other 3 options of broadband. Now, if you're not at home and you have a data subscription with your wireless carrier, you're probably accessing a 4G LTE network. Now, 4G stands for 4th generation wireless network, and it opened up a lot of possibilities for consumers as they're able to access the internet from anywhere. However, 4G still had its limitations as the bandwidth is relatively small, and you can sometimes experience traffic jams where your internet speeds drop. And in addition to that, 4G has also been known to be relatively spotty in certain areas. Now, these are all issues that are going to be fixed with the 5G network. Now, there are 3 primary factors that are going to make 5G so revolutionary compared to the current 4G networks that we have. The first is that the 5G architecture is going to allow for much more widespread connectivity, and you're not going to be seeing these dead zones that you do with 4G LTE. Now, the 5G is actually going to be integrated with the current 4G infrastructure at the beginning in order to phase in the 5G networks. Now, how it's going to work is that there's going to be 5G macro towers that are connected to local and central servers, which are then distributing the signal to 5G small cell towers, which are going to be located within small businesses or within your household. Now, this is going to allow for much more widespread connectivity, and it's going to open up the ability for more machine-to-machine communications. The second benefit that 5G is going to bring is that the latency is going to be dramatically reduced. Now, latency refers to the speed of the connection. With 3G networks, the latency was around 300 milliseconds. With 4G networks, the average latency was around 50 milliseconds. However, in some places, you might be able to get 30 milliseconds. But with 5G networks, the latency is going to drop all the way down to 1 millisecond. Now, just for comparison, it takes your brain 10 milliseconds to process whatever your eyes are seeing. So this instantaneous connection is going to open up a bunch of new possibilities, some of which include autonomous vehicles, which need to be able to communicate with each other very rapidly, or something like cloud gaming where you need very fast connection speeds. Now, the third and final factor which makes 5G so revolutionary is that it's going to be covering a bandwidth much larger than that of 4G. Now, as I said before, 4G sometimes suffers from traffic jams of too many people hogging the same bandwidth, and 5G is going to completely solve that issue because it's going to be able to access a much larger bandwidth. Now, while the 4G revolution primarily benefited the consumer, the 5G revolution is going to benefit not only the consumer, but also enterprise solutions. So now 5G is going to open up a world of possibilities for businesses in order to improve machine-to-machine communications and increase their productivity. So now we have a good idea of why 5G is going to revolutionize not only the consumer industry, but also the industrial and enterprise solution industry. Let's take a look at 3 companies that are going to be experiencing high levels of growth due to the introduction of 5G networks. The first one we're going to look at is Facebook. Now, Facebook is the most used social media platform in the world. And actually, if you look at the top 6 social media networks in this list, Facebook owns 4 of them. Now, the area of Facebook's business that is going to benefit the most from 5G might surprise you. It's actually not the generic social media platform that you and I know, but it's actually a much smaller segment of their business. And that is the VR portion of their business. In 2014, Facebook purchased Oculus for $2 billion. Now, Oculus Rift is one of the most popular VR headsets on the market today, and this opened up a whole new world of social networking for Facebook to explore. Now, if you haven't seen the movie Ready Player One, I definitely recommend it, not only because I think it's a great movie, but also because it introduces you to a possible application for VR in the future. Now, this movie takes place in a futuristic world where nobody really wants to live in the real world anymore, so they all go and spend all their time in this virtual reality world called the Oasis. Now, Facebook is actually developing something very similar called Facebook Horizon. Now, Facebook Horizon is currently only in its beta phase. However, with all the benefits that we're going to see coming from 5G networks, which include reduced latency, increased bandwidth, and increased coverage area, Facebook Horizon is going to become a very serious candidate for a new form of social network. Now, the way that Facebook is going to monetize Facebook Horizons is going to be similar to the classic Facebook fashion in that they're going to be selling ads. But in addition to that, they're also going to be developing an app store and a game store similar to the Apple App Store. Now, you can see up above here, they have a section called Games and Apps. And this is where they're going to be attracting app and game developers to sell their products on Facebook Horizon. Now, this is going to open up a brand new revenue stream for Facebook, who has already been seeing tremendous financial results over the last 10 years. So now, given this, let's take a look at Facebook's valuation so that we can get an idea of what a safe entry price would be currently, so that you can also be benefiting in the potential growth of Facebook Horizons. If you've seen my videos in the past, you'll know that normally I use a net asset value and earnings power value model in order to find the intrinsic value of a company. However, given how strong and sustainable Facebook's competitive advantages are, it would be wrong not to factor in the future growth of the company. So for that reason, I use an earnings power value model, which includes growth. And now if any of you are interested to play around with any of the models that you see in my videos, I post all of them for free on my Facebook group, which I included in the link down below. So if you ever want to play around with the models or change some inputs that maybe you didn't agree with, I'm giving you guys full access to all the Excel spreadsheets that I use in my videos. So after using this model, we get a safe entry price for Facebook of $161.55 per share. And if we take a look at their current stock price of $234, we see that it currently is a little bit too expensive. However, Facebook is a very volatile stock. As you can see, in the last just 2 years, it has dipped down very dramatically 2 or 3 times. And this means that if you're patient, you're definitely going to be able to find a safe entry price for Facebook. So now let's take a look at the second company that's going to be benefiting from the revolutionary 5G technology. And that company is Intel. Now, all the new devices that are going to be using 5G networks and the 5G networks themselves are going to require advanced microchips in order for them to function. Now, this is exactly what Intel does. They operate within the semiconductor industry, and they are actually the leading producer of computer processing units. Now, Intel, like many other semiconductor companies, has shifted a lot of their resources over to 5G. So you can see over here that Intel isn't only just going to be providing chips for the devices themselves, but they're also going to be powering the network. And this provides them with a very large growth opportunity because 5G is going to require a lot more chips than we have ever seen in the past. And something interesting about Intel is actually that their co-founder, Gordon Moore, founded the Moore's Law, which states that the number of transistors in a microchip is going to roughly double every 2 years, while the cost of a computer is going to be cut in half. So Intel has a rich history within this industry, and they've historically been the market leader. And the primary reason why is because of the size of their research and development. If we take a look at these 3 semiconductor companies, we see that Intel's R&D expenditure absolutely dwarfs the other 2. Intel in the last year spent $13 billion on R&D, while AMD spent just 1.5 and Nvidia spent 2.8. Now this gives Intel a massive advantage over its competitors because they operate in an industry where the chips that they're creating are only useful for a year or 2. So you have to continually be researching and developing new products, and they have to always stay on top of their competitors. And the way that they do that is by outspending their competitors. And we can actually see the results of this in Intel and AMD's competition over the last 15 years for dominance in the CPU market. Now, if you take a look, AMD at one point produced a superior product to Intel, and they started taking away some of their market share. So what did Intel do? They decided to up their R&D expenditure, and they took back that market share by creating a superior product to AMD. And now recently, Intel has actually been losing market share to AMD because AMD has come out with a superior product. But if we're going to use history as an example, then likely what's going to happen is that Intel is just going to outspend AMD and take back that market share. And so for this reason, Intel's R&D expenditure is going to be able to dwarf all competitors, and that is why it is likely that they're going to remain market leaders in this industry. So now let's take a look at the company's valuation so that you can have an idea of what a safe entry price is for the stock. Now for Intel, I use a classic NAV EPV model in order to find the intrinsic value of the company, after which I applied a 33% margin of safety to find the safe entry price of $49 per share. Now, since we were just talking about the sustainability and strength of Intel's competitive advantage, which is that they can outspend their competitors in terms of research and development in order to consistently produce a superior product, I also believe it would be wrong to not factor in the future growth of the company. For that reason, I also used a value of growth model, which gave me an entry price of $84 per share. However, if we take a look at the stock price of Intel, we see that the stock has never traded above $72 per share, which tells me that the value of growth model might be overestimating the value of Intel's future growth. However, the stock is trading right between the NAV EPV entry price and the value of growth entry price, which gives you some confidence in being able to purchase Intel stock at its current valuation. And in addition to that, if you look at the price to earnings ratio for Intel, you see that it's trading at a historical low, and given the high levels of growth that Intel's business is likely to experience due to the 5G revolution, it makes their current valuation reasonable. However, if you are a little bit more patient, you can see that Intel stock has provided various entry opportunities over the past couple of years, so it's likely that Intel will provide you with a more conservative entry level around $49 per share. So now moving on to the third and final company that's going to be benefiting from the 5G revolution, we're going to take a look at Verizon Wireless. Verizon is currently the largest wireless network carrier in the United States, and for this reason they are positioned very well to benefit off of the 5G revolution by investing in the infrastructure required to build the 5G network out. Now, Verizon has made some very aggressive moves in terms of 5G, and one of the moves that made me the most confident that Verizon is going to do very well within the 5G revolution is that they just hired a CEO that worked with Ericsson, who is one of the leading two companies that was developing the 5G technology. Now, this move shows that Verizon is focusing all of their efforts on becoming the leader in 5G. And if you look at their website, they state that they are the fastest 5G in America, which I'm not sure if it's totally true. And either way, it's not that important right now because they're not true 5G yet. And the infrastructure to build out a 5G network is going to cost them a lot of money, and it's going to take a long time. And we're probably not going to see a full rollout until the end of 2025 at the earliest. So for that reason, the returns on this investment aren't going to be seen until probably the end of the decade. However, given the stability of Verizon's business and their 4% dividend yield, they're still a very solid investment to make today with the potential of big gains to be made in the future from 5G. And the reason why Verizon is likely going to experience higher growth rates than it's seen in the past is because, as we said, 4G networks have only really benefited consumers up until this point. However, 5G is going to open up applications not only to consumers but also to businesses. So this is going to open up brand new revenue streams for Verizon, and they're likely going to see a very large increase in their revenues as they're able to provide solutions to consumers and businesses. So now let's take a look at their valuation so you know what is a solid entry price for Verizon Wireless. And now for them, I also use the net asset value earnings power value model. And after applying a 20% margin of safety because they are a much more stable business, I got an entry price of $53 per share. Now looking at their stock price right now, they're trading at $56 per share, and they are a relatively stable company, and the stock is relatively stable. However, it still does provide you with some solid entry opportunities. So if you're patient, you will definitely be able to get into the stock at a solid entry price. So that does it for the top 3 companies, but I also want to include some honorable mentions that I didn't have time to do a full analysis on in this video. So I'm going to be giving you guys 5 other companies to be looking out for that are going to be benefiting from the 5G revolution. The first is Tesla. Now, the way that Tesla is going to be benefiting from this is with their autonomous vehicles. Tesla has 1 million cars out on the road today, and given how advanced they are technologically, they are set up perfectly to be able to benefit from the increased connectivity that 5G is going to bring, as they're going to be able to have vehicles that are going to be able to communicate with each other very quickly. In addition to this, they're also looking to launch autonomous taxis, which is going to challenge the taxi industry as a whole and provides them with a very large growth opportunity right there as well. So Tesla is definitely another one to be looking out for to benefit from the 5G revolution. Next, we have AT&T, which is also another wireless carrier provider like Verizon, and they're also going to be experiencing higher levels of growth similar to Verizon. And the next company that's going to benefit from the 5G revolution is Google. Now, Google is also developing autonomous vehicle technology. In addition to that, they're going to benefit from 5G through their augmented reality glasses, which are going to be able to communicate and interact with their environments much easier when 5G is enabled. Next, Apple, similar to Google, is going to benefit from augmented reality, as Apple CEO has stated that augmented reality is going to be the future, and he thinks that it's going to replace the smartphone. And as we know, Apple is very good at making consumer products and charging a very high price for it, so likely this shift to 5G is going to be benefiting Apple in a big way. And now the final company that's going to be benefiting from the 5G revolution is NVIDIA. Now, NVIDIA, similar to Intel, operates within the semiconductor industry. However, they produce graphic processing units. Now, these units are used in professional gaming or visualization software, And with the introduction of 5G and the boost that it's going to give to virtual reality, NVIDIA's graphic processing units are going to be in high demand. So for that reason, NVIDIA is likely going to be experiencing high levels of growth due to the introduction of 5G networks. So that does it for this video. I hope you guys found this valuable. As always, I'm not a financial advisor. These videos are for entertainment purposes only. However, I do hope that you guys found some valuable information in this and that it's going to inform your investment decision. As always, please like and subscribe to help me out with the YouTube algorithm, and I look forward to making my next video for you guys. Have a great week.